If you're accepting the fact that you don't know everything, then you can ask questions and learn. If you go into the situation as a parent thinking, I got this, I know everything there is to know about this, you're going to miss something because you can't know everything. This is a very unusual world.
I'm Caitlin, a former professional ballerina turned dance educator and career mentor, and this is the Brainy Ballerina Podcast. I am here for the aspiring professional ballerina who wants to learn what it really takes to build a smart and sustainable career in the dance industry. I'm peeling back the curtain of the professional dance world with open and honest conversations about the realities of becoming a professional dancer. Come along to gain the knowledge and inspiration you need to succeed in a dance career on your terms. Hello and welcome to the Brainy Ballerina Podcast. I'm your host, Caitlin Sloan, and I am joined today by my mom, Brenda Younker, the ultimate dance mom. I have had an influx of parents reaching out to me lately asking for support because they feel like they're coming into this dance world with their child and they want to be supportive, but they don't really understand the world. It's not their career. And so they're just feeling a bit overwhelmed and unsure of what to do. And so I thought I would bring on my mom to talk about her experience in this dance world. So, Mom, do you remember my first dance class? Do you remember how it went?
I do. I remember the very, very first when you were very small, maybe 3.5. And it was more like a creative movement class, but it was at a community center, and you loved the costuming and the tutu, and you loved the music, but you didn't love the instruction all that much. So the first class at the end, the teacher said, I think she maybe needs to be a little bit older before she comes back to have instruction. So I think we just kept up with the music at our house, ballet music, and kept the tutu to play in, but we didn't go back to a class for quite a while.
So when I went back, I was 10 years old. How did that go? Did I just tell you that I wanted to go to try ballet again?
It's interesting looking back on this after so many years, but for those listeners who don't know, Caitlin's the oldest of 4. So when she was ready to go back to ballet, the youngest of our children had just been born. There's a 10-year gap. And my husband and I decided that they could each do one extracurricular activity, because with 4 children, if you have more than one activity per kid, it just gets overwhelming. So Caitlin said, I'd like to try ballet. We didn't do a lot of research because this whole conversation is pre-internet, so it's really a different world. But there was a ballet studio very near our house, just a mile or two, and we thought, oh, this will be easy to get to, and she can take her class once a week. And you loved it. You really loved it, and you loved the predictability of it. You loved that there was etiquette involved. That was a real nice thing that you really enjoyed. I mean, obviously at our house, it was pretty chaotic. So to go to a ballet class where you could have the instruction, you really did like it.
It's so interesting to me that I had such a turn from being, it's normal as a young kid to want to just do a little bit more of the creative running around part of it, I guess. But
Right.
Going from that to being so obsessed with almost like the order and the etiquette and everything, was that a personality shift I had as well?
Oh, I don't think so. I think it's because when you started, you were an only child. At 3.5. At the other end, it was just a lot going on at our house. I don't think there was any complaining about it, or you didn't complain about pain, and you like the teacher. After about 6 or 8 months, you came home, you got in the car one day, and were really upset, and you said, she just keeps giving me corrections, and I just feel terrible. And I said, oh, she knows that you have the potential to do more. So don't worry about the corrections. That's a good sign. But yeah, things kind of took off pretty quickly after you got back into it at 10.
Yeah, that was really good advice because I took that with me the rest of my career when you said that.
Uh-oh.
And I don't know that I would have had that mindset shift because that wasn't explained to me, I think, as a dancer. It was kind of known by your teacher.
Oh, yeah.
If I'm paying more attention to you, then that means I believe in you. But it wasn't spoken out loud. And knowing more about myself now and how my brain works and everything, getting the corrections felt like rejection. And so I felt like I was just terrible and being rejected constantly. And you saying that was definitely really pivotal for me.
And shortly after that, it was interesting because it was only 1.5 years or so after you started instruction that the director of that school, which, by the way, can I just say, what a serendipitous kind of situation to be in, to have that level of instruction. And we just fell into it. We didn't really do research. We just were like, this will work. This is close. But the level of instruction at the Rochester School of Dance is phenomenal and
Yeah.
has been for years and years. So that was just really a blessing. But not long after you started, your teacher said, we need to up the level of instruction for her. So she invited us to come to the second studio, which was 40 minutes from our house, for a whole summer. So if I remember correctly, they kind of gave you like 2 years and a year of instruction.
Yeah.
By the end of that year, you were ready for pointe shoes. And
Yeah.
after pointe shoes, yeah, all bets are off because you were like hooked big time.
When you first signed me up for that ballet class, did you have any idea that it could turn into a career, or were you just like, she's going to try an activity?
I think the latter. I think it was more, this will be a good thing to do. And she obviously enjoys it. And I loved watching it. It was my dream. I was like a
Yeah.
little girl who wanted to be a ballerina. So I was all in on this. I'm like, this is great. But no, I didn't really think that far ahead until you got into maybe when you were like 13 and they started talking about summer intensives and things like that. Then I realized, oh, this could go quite a ways.
So when I started getting into that stage and I wanted to go away from home for a summer intensive, well, I actually remember the first time I wanted to go away from home, and that first summer you had said no.
Yeah.
Because all my friends were going away, and I think that was what drove a lot of it. But I wouldn't dancing like 2 years, and you were just like, I don't think we're ready for that yet. And I remember being really upset about that, which now looking back, I understand as a parent.
Right.
But when I started wanting to go away for summer intensives or getting those offers to train year round, what were your thoughts about that? How did you help me work through those decisions?
Your dad and I tried to, before we had the discussion with you, we determined as a couple what we were comfortable with, what the cost was, because the cost became a consideration. I laughed when I say that each of the children had one extracurricular, but your extracurricular ended up being 6 days a week and many more hours than we anticipated. So anyway, we did have those discussions where we were talking about cost, what our comfort level was with you, who was going to be there, who was the supervision. And then we would come to you and talk about, okay, what do you feel comfortable doing? Do you want to do the one that's in Detroit where you can come home every night? Do you want to do the one in Pittsburgh where you have to stay there? Are there any particular program that you're really wanting to dance with or learn their rep? It was a pretty high learning curve at that point, because here's the thing about ballet. It's an entirely different language, literally and figuratively. It's
Yeah.
in French, and it's a whole world that has some built-in rules that we had to learn in a hurry. I don't remember us disagreeing a lot about where you were going to go. I think once we got to the point of you were in a pre-professional program and this was what was expected, then we just kept going.
When you were trying to learn that language and make those decisions, did you have anyone to turn to ask those questions? How did you figure this out?
Well, because I am a lover of dance, I was reading Pointe magazine, I was reading trade magazines, and the backstage was where all the moms helped during performances. So your company, the pre-professional company, did Nutcracker and Sleeping Beauty, and the Ballet Guild, which was all the moms, did all the work. So there was a lot of conversations happening backstage. There were some mothers who had daughters that were older, and they were very helpful. There was some moms that were older than me, but they had children the same age. They were a little bit more helpful as far as not getting too worked up about things. Like, this will pass. Don't worry about that casting. They had a better perspective, I think, because they had the benefit of age. And a lot of the other moms were professionals themselves in different areas. So they had a broader view of the world in general. That was really helpful. There might have been one or two classes or discussions from the school director, but I don't remember there being a lot of help. Otherwise, your programs would have been wonderful to have.
Yeah. I mean, it was sort of baked in, I guess, in the sense that we were auditioning for summer intensives. I thought it was really great that our program had auditions for our company every year that we had to go to. We had to bring our resume and our photo, and there was a guest panel of judges, even though it was internal. So we got used to that whole process. So I did feel like, even though I didn't have a sit-down class that told me how to do that stuff, it was like you said, we kind of asked other parents, and it was sort of this whole built-in ecosystem where they had maybe trained the first parents, and then everyone just kept trickling it down as it went. But yeah, I don't know that there was someone we could have at least at the time that we knew of, at least like you said, there wasn't a lot of internet or social media where you could have like found someone who
Yeah,
specifically was specializing in what I do now.
exactly. Yes, I had not heard of any program that was available like yours is now. I think that, like you said, it was just that we went from level to level, and at each level, we gathered a little bit more information. We understood as I saw other dancers from your school go on to professional careers, then I was able to understand more what the process was. Like I said, the women, the mothers that were in business had a different view of this, and they said, oh, well, these things have to happen in order for there to be enough money for that person to get hired. Those kind of conversations were helpful. I have to say, I don't know if it's true for a lot of couples, but I was the one doing most of the investigating. Your dad was like, who do I write the check to? He was busy with his career, and I was busy
Hmm.
with 3 other kids, so, yeah, there wasn't a lot of investigating on his part. I was doing most of that.
Yeah, that's like a whole other job to try to manage your kids' career when they're 14 years old. And like you said, the oldest of four, you have a lot
Yeah,
that you're juggling.
right.
What felt the most confusing or overwhelming to you when you were trying to figure out how to support me in this process?
Oh, like I said before, learning the new language, that was a lot. I don't know if you remember, but we used to have to travel quite a ways even to get pointe shoes, even though we
Yeah.
lived in Metro Detroit, which was a pretty good-sized community. We would have to travel another hour to find a store that had a lot of pointe shoes to choose from. I remember that first
Yeah.
appointment.
What was that store called?
I don't remember the store, but
It was in Lansing,
yeah.
and it was like the place to go. And she had so many shoes, and she would climb down in that basement and just bring
Yes.
up like 50 pairs of shoes.
Yes, and there was a little like a mom chair that you could sit on there, and that was great, and then she had the small stage with the bar so you could get up on point and you could see scenes
Uh-huh.
and other things. But, yeah, it was amazing because she literally it was like the store itself was very small, but she had it stacked from floor to ceiling, 8-foot ceilings with 4-inch boxes of point shoes, yeah, that was amazing, but I gotta tell you, the look on your face the first time you rolled up on point, it was so sweet. You were just beaming like, "This is it, this is the thing." So, that was great.
Yeah, I feel like kind of going back to that, I tried so many other things before I did ballet, and nothing really captured my interest. And I see it with my kids now, or at least with Ollie. I see him trying all these things, and he's like, yeah, that's fine. But I don't see that level of where he's like, I really want to do this. But when I found ballet, it was like, it just made so much sense to me in every way, physically, mentally, everything about it just was like, oh, this is exactly how my brain and my body work. It was like the language, I already understood it.
Yes, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Other things that were overwhelming were navigating casting that didn't go the way you had hoped, casting that went the way you hoped, and other dancers were not happy about it. That was sometimes a issue.
Yeah.
The summer that you went to Kego Harbor, which was the second studio, that was a lot of driving, coordinating. The summer programs, the first one seemed very confusing, but after that, you realized they were pretty much run the same way, so you understood what was going to happen.
Although that one was weird when I went to ABT Detroit that first year. Do you remember we stayed in a hotel?
Oh, that's
There
right.
was no dorms and it was like just a public hotel.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
looking back, I'm kind of like, huh, because there was just other random people in there. And I don't think I realized at the time, but looking back, because I went back and was a counselor later
Mm.
and was in a whole different situation, able to be in the dorms and everything. And I'm looking at that going, I don't think there was a level of security that I thought there was
That's a good
at
point.
that time.
That's a really good point. Well, I was thinking the other day about how you went to Pittsburgh on crutches. Remember you'd had the accident? You went to Pittsburgh on crutches, and
Yeah, it was in a golf cart accident.
yeah, it was a fundraiser for the ballet company, and you got hurt at the fundraiser
Yeah.
on the golf course. You recovered and you danced in Pittsburgh, and you called and said, "They want me to stay."
Hmm.
They asked me to stay, and your dad and I were just like, "This is so great. This is so cool." But then we realized, how many careers do you have where you get to make the decision at 15 or 16 that you're going to be part of a company or that you're
Yeah.
going to move on into that next level? It's just a very niche kind of thing. There's very few things, I think. Maybe other professional athletes might have that same situation where they're picked really early and they have to make a decision very young, but 15 is a hard time to make that kind of decision to move away from home.
Yeah, that whole process was so crazy too, because like you said, I had that injury. I had second-degree burns on my leg, so I couldn't even bend my knee. I had to
Hmm.
be in a wheelchair at first because I couldn't bend my knee to use crutches.
Right.
And then eventually I got there and I was on crutches, and so barely dancing. And then by the end, and that was amazing too, because they had a whole sign-up sheet at the intensive that said, if you're interested in talking to us about the year-round program, sign up for a slot. And I was just coming off this crazy injury. I was 15 years old. I was barely back to dancing, and I was like, I don't think that I'm going to do that. And then they called me in anyway, and I remember the director of the school saying, why didn't you sign up for a slot? I think you should. And I told him my whole spiel, and he said, well, we want you to come, and offered me the spot. And so that was also like kind of amazing, because it was like, oh, they want me to
Yes.
come. But then I decided not to. Do you remember? I don't even really have a super clear memory of those conversations. I remember just thinking like, I'm not ready to move away from home yet. But do you have a more clear memory of how that went and how we decided that that was not going to be the path that I was going to take that year? Did you know the dance slipper has remained essentially unchanged for over 100 years? The rigors of dance have increased exponentially, and traditional dance slippers fail to meet the unique athletic needs of today's dancers. Designed and engineered by former Pacific Northwest Ballet principal dancer Seth Orza, who experienced firsthand the need for better, smarter equipment, Orza delivers the first ever patented shock-absorbing ballet shoes. The Orza Pro preserves the timeless aesthetic of traditional ballet slippers while incorporating sneaker technology to maximize performance, optimizing endurance, reducing fatigue, and increasing confidence. Trusted by leading dancers, schools, and teachers worldwide, including myself, Orza helps you feel your best so you can dance your best. Head to the link in the show notes and use code Brainy Ballerina for 10% off your order of Orza ballet slippers today.
The discussion I remember between your dad and I was that we started comparing the school system you would have been in, because you would have had to finish your high school career at that program. And the school district that we lived in was, you were in public school, but it was a very highly rated public school. That was one of the determinants that we said it's better to just finish. And as well, you were not completely gung-ho about being away from your family. So that was another indicator to us. Truth be told, we probably were just nervous about it, and we're just like, no is the easiest answer at this point. By looking back on this whole process, sometimes I made decisions out of fear instead of information. I think that parents now have such a tremendous ability to access information that they're able to make those decisions with a lot more factors involved. A lot of times mine was what I was afraid might happen instead of understanding what the program was.
Yeah, and I remember even Cornelia calling me into her office, and I don't remember who this teacher was, but we had these amazing master classes over the summer for 2 weeks where she would bring in guest teachers. And it was like a little summer intensive at our studio. And I cannot for the life of me remember which teacher was there this particular summer, but she had her in the office too. And they both were like really trying to talk me into going away. And that was one
Yes,
thing I always think that Cornelia did really well is she didn't ever want her students to stay because she wanted to like keep them in her studio because they were her good students. You know, she was always like, as soon as you got an offer or as soon as you were ready to go away, she was super encouraging of that. She knew that that was the path that a lot of dancers took, and especially in her generation, that was the way,
right.
right? So I think she was already dancing professionally around that age.
Yes, she was in New York by then. Yeah.
Yeah. So she was like, you have to go. She was really encouraging of me. And I just, like you said, I don't know if it was fear or what, but I didn't feel ready. And I also did know that I had great training where I was. So it wasn't like I had to leave to get good training. I was getting such excellent training where I was. So there was that too. But I think it's always important. And I always tell dancers and parents this, like, I didn't take that path and I still became a professional dancer. So maybe it would have happened sooner if I had done that or a different way. And I definitely would say, like, you should look at, is it fear that's driving the decisions? Or is it a real not wanting to go because you don't feel that you're ready? I think you'll never feel ready, but is it just not right for you?
Yes, and I'm curious about you, what your mindset was at that point. Did you realize how fast it was gonna go? From 10 years old when you restarted to 15 when they were saying you could join a company as a core, no, it wasn't even a core, it was probably a apprentice.
It wasn't even the company. It was just the year-round
I
school.
see, okay.
But it was like a pathway into the company, right?
Right. Did you realize it was gonna happen that fast?
No, and I don't think I was prepared for that at all. And I think that's another thing about it is I didn't go into that summer intensive thinking I'm trying to get a spot in this program.
Yes.
And so when that happened, it was so fast, right? Because you're going from this intensive, it's 5 weeks pretty much in July.
Right.
And then 3 weeks later, I was going to be starting at this school. Like there wasn't enough time in my brain, I think, to reconcile that I would move away from my whole family, all my siblings, my parents, everything I knew, my dance school that I loved, my academic school that I didn't love, but was comfortable with.
Right.
And
Familiar.
yeah, it's familiar and go to a whole new place. And I think that quick of a mindset shift was not available to me. And if I had gone into it thinking like, this is what I'm trying to get out of this program, it would have been a totally different situation.
Mhm.
And so I think that is the case though for a lot of dancers is things do happen quickly. And I think also like at that point, I remember talking to you about the fact that I wasn't even really sure if I wanted to be a professional. Like I was training at that level and I loved it and I loved doing that, but I wasn't 100% sure I wanted it to be my whole life.
Right.
And I think that was another thing we talked about a lot was like, if you stay at your academic school you're at now, which like you said was a really good school, there's might be more options open. If you choose this path, the other ones might kind of fade away for you and this is the path you have to take. And I wasn't totally sure that I was ready to make that commitment.
Right.
Which now I realize like I could have always changed my mind and come back and all those things. But in my mind, it was like, if you do this, that's your life. You don't get another choice. And that was another thing that I think I dealt with a lot too, that I still do. We talk about this all the time is like that black and white thinking pattern that you get stuck in is like, it's this or that instead of it could be, let's try this. And then that didn't work. Let's try this instead. I didn't have that thought.
We didn't have that direction from us as parents. For our family, you're going to college. That was our mindset from the time we had children. We're saving money for them to go to college. There was not the thought that we were saving money to send you to a ballet company. That was
Yeah.
not in the mix. So when that option became available, then we all had to shift our thinking. So there was a couple things. One was that you had a pretty tight-knit family. We're pretty close. And so that's a consideration. The fact that you had a good school system was the fact that it was farther away from your house. So these are all factors that are going to vary between dancers. Every family has a different situation about what's happening in their family and their finances and their geographic location. So those things might happen differently for everybody. But I do remember there being a gap year kind of, where you had one summer that you did not go to a intensive.
Yeah. I didn't go after Pittsburgh. Yeah. I think that after that one, I just had this idea that I wanted to have a normal childhood. It was like something about that experience triggered something in me that maybe made me realize how quickly this pathway was going to force me to grow up.
Yes.
And I had a really like intense reaction to that, almost like, oh no, I'm not ready for that. I don't want to be a grown up yet. I want to be a kid. And didn't go to a summer intensive for, I think, the next couple of summers and got a retail job or to Abercrombie and just like stayed home. You said, if you don't go to a summer intensive, you have to get a job. And I was like, all right, I'll just work at this retail store.
Right.
And I still took classes all summer at my studio. It wasn't like I didn't dance at all, but I just was like, okay, maybe I don't want to have my whole childhood defined by this one thing because I don't even know if it's for sure the thing that I want to do forever.
Right. So I think you as a dancer and we as parents arrived at the same realization about the same time, that this could be fast-tracked if you wanted it, but if you didn't, you still had opportunities to dance, to perform. You've always loved performing. You loved training, but stage is where you just light up. And that conversation came back around at the end of your senior year when you were looking for college programs in dance, and you also were auditioning, and your director was thinking, you really need to go. This is it. You have to go to a company. And there was a little bit of tension there when you decided not to. You decided to go to college. And I remember one experience where we had gone to a graduation ceremony for one of your cousins. And you had said to me, if I don't go to college now, I'm not sure I'll ever go back and do it. If I'm on that path, I got to stay on that path. But we had gone to a graduation ceremony for one of your cousins, and there were women at the end of the ceremony receiving PhDs, and they were in their 60s and 70s. And you looked at me and said, "Oh, you can go to school anytime." I never thought about it like that. There was constantly this revision of what you were going to do going forward, which I think happens to everybody.
Yeah.
But we were pushing you to go to college, I think, and you were feeling like that was something that you needed to do at this particular age, 18 to 22. And that was a decision you made and still had a fabulous career. So
Yeah.
it could work.
Yeah.
Although you did graduate college in 3 years.
Yes. Because when Cornelia was saying, like, you should go audition, you're ready, I don't think she was wrong in
Right.
that sense. Like, she was right. And she had so many alumni go on to professional careers. I mean, the number of people out of that studio who have become professionals is pretty staggering.
Right.
For, a non-company affiliated school, a local ballet school.
Right.
And I think as a dancer too, like that was helpful for me because I actually saw that it was possible. I didn't have to like dream about it. It was like, oh, if I do these things, this is what happens. All these people I know are doing this. And I feel like I was one of the first people to say I'm going to go to college who was going to keep going with it.
Yes, I think
right.
Most
of the people who decided to keep dancing were going directly into companies. And so I was one of the first who was kind of like, I think I'm going to do college. And another thing that I'm just thinking about is how much I actually really liked the idea of like being an academic. Like I loved reading. I liked all of that. Like I liked the idea of being in a college setting. Like when I went to visit a university, I thought, oh, I could see myself here. I like this whole idea of being in the setting. And I did graduate early because when I was in that setting, the program shifted so much that it turned from a ballet program into a more modern program, which I was still at that point like, I want to be in a classical ballet company. And I did see my technique slipping away and was like, I got to graduate and go audition if I want to make this happen. And so I was fortunate that I'd been double majoring up to that point and had a ton of credits and could graduate early. And when I look at videos of myself freshman year, I'm like, yeah, you know what? I was really strong technically as a ballet dancer. And at the end, I was a different dancer. And it wasn't that I was a bad dancer, but I was just a different dancer than I had come in with. And I gained a lot of skills that did really inform the rest of my career. But again, that's like a choice that it didn't put me where I thought I was going to go, but it ended up working out in a way I think it was supposed to.
Mm-hmm. I do remember visiting colleges. I know Dad took you on several auditions, but I do remember you and I going to SUNY Purchase.
Mm-hmm.
And when you just said a minute ago, you could see yourself on campus, but that campus you didn't.
No. I didn't like New York. I never liked New York. Like that was the thing where I was like, I don't want to move to New York City. Right. I don't even want to be on campus here. It wasn't in New York City. It's like upstate. But even being there, I was like, I don't know. Something about it just didn't feel right. Like when I went to Grand Valley, I guess I should say, it wasn't maybe all college campuses. When I went to Grand Valley to visit, I could see myself there.
Yes.
I felt immediately the sense of this is where I want to be. And that's why I always tell parents and dancers to go visit, because you can have an idea of a program in your head of what you think it's going to be like, but there's nothing that can compare to stepping foot in a place and just having that overwhelming sense of, oh, this is where I belong.
Well, that was an experience that we had with all 4 children as far as visiting colleges. Like there were some where you felt the right vibe and others where you didn't. And I feel like that was what happened when you got to Missouri Contemporary Ballet. It just resonated.
Yeah.
So I feel like that's an encouraging thing for parents to understand is like follow your dancer's lead on where they feel the right vibe and the right resonance, the atmosphere, the teachers, the students. Be cognizant of that because they are the one who's going to be living there and they need to be able to make it work. Because again, you are dealing with people that maybe are not even legally adults yet, but they do know themselves and they know where they feel good dancing. So let them be the lead on that part of it.
Yeah. I hear a lot from parents who are worried that they're either not doing enough or they're doing too much or they're just like not really sure if they're making the right decisions. In a lot of careers, there's a more straightforward path, right? Like if you're going to be a doctor, you have to go to undergrad, you have to go to med school, you have to do all these steps to get to being an attending. If you're going to be a dancer, the options are a little bit more scattered and infinite. Just the idea that like there's not as straightforward of a pathway to becoming a dancer or the same steps you have to follow. And I guess I'm curious if you ever questioned whether we were making the right choices or if you worried about the kind of guidance you were giving me.
I didn't really second guess our choices because when I saw you on stage, I knew that this was who you were. And I want to say that to parents too. Spend as much time as you can watching your child dance because I miss it so much seeing you dance. I loved it. To feel the audience energy when you stepped on stage, don't take that part for granted. I just want to tell them while they have their dancers at home. And if they do move away, do what you can to get there to see them perform because it's such a special thing. Looking back on what I would do differently, I think I would have not taken things so seriously at the studio level. There's always a little bit of drama because you're dealing with dramatic, artistic people. And I would have understood better that dance time is not the same as real world time. When a dancer says we're going to be at rehearsal for 2 hours, that might mean 4. It didn't come together. We needed more time. I would have been a little bit easier on you and myself and probably everybody else. I wouldn't have taken things so seriously and felt like it was the end of the world if you were hurt or that weren't cast or whatever. It was important, in retrospect, it was important to help you grow as a whole person because growing as a whole person, spiritually and physically and mentally, was going to help you be a really good dancer. Because you were going to be a healthy person that stepped on stage and you were able to absorb all of the choreography and the direction and handle everything else that was happening in your life if you had that support. So that part I feel like we did right. We tried to do right, but sometimes we got overwhelmed just by life and a busy family.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would like to go back and be gentler for everybody's sake.
That's such a good point. I feel like as a parent, it starts to feel like your kids' emotions can be so big that they become yours.
Yes.
That is definitely good advice to try to be that calm in the storm instead of jumping in with them because everything they're feeling, you feel it. And isn't that actually a real physiological thing? Like when you've had a child, you're always connected to them. So you actually feel it in your body, their sadness and the fear and all of those things. And so what is your advice for parents to be able to sort of have that layer of course I empathize with you, but, be able to hold the space for them?
I believe that it's important for you as a parent to have your own habits and your own support system. However that works for you, if that's your friends that you spend time with that are outside of the dance world, if it's your faith, if it's your job, or if it's a volunteer position that you do, to have your own well-rounded life so that you can keep perspective for your child's sake. I know for myself, I was living vicariously through your ballet career because I thought it would have been so cool to be a ballerina. So that's why I got super involved and over involved at some points. I have a husband who's an engineer and he's very practical and very logical, and that was helpful if you can find somebody to be your counterpoint. The other thing that's important, I feel like, is that you need to let the dance instructors be the dance instructors. Most parents don't have professional dance experience as a dancer, so they need to leave that to the instructors, I feel like. However, you know your child, so be your child's advocate as a person, but you don't have to be their advocate as an artistic director or a school director. Those jobs are already taken. You can let that go. I do remember one time when you got hurt, that more serious injury when you were in the golf cart, you got pretty depressed after when you couldn't dance that summer.
Yeah.
I realized at that point that your whole personality was wrapped up in dancing and that you really were having a hard time seeing beyond the spot that you were in. And that was another reason that we kind of realized you need to have things in your life that bring you joy besides dancing.
Yeah, because I went through that too when I had mono the following year.
Right.
And I was out for an entire month at least. Month of school, probably more of dance. Those moments, I guess, having those major injuries and illnesses did help kind of have that realization that without this, I don't really know who I am or what I do with my life.
Right.
And that was another, a light bulb moment telling me, okay, maybe I need to make sure that I'm experiencing other things in my childhood.
Right.
And you said, that you would get really wrapped up in things, but I actually never really thought, from my perception, you always seemed pretty hands-off.
Mm-hmm.
Supportive, of course, always there for me and always working backstage and doing all the things for the guild, and you were the president and all that kind of stuff. Like, you were incredibly involved, but I never felt like you were the kind of dance mom who was like, run your solo again, do that. You never were like on me like that. How did you find that balance of being supportive without overstepping?
I felt like it was important for me as a mom to start building an identity other than mom. So I had a lot of volunteer work that I did. I was involved a lot in the church and friends and neighbors that we did things with. It depends how old you are when you have your kids, is one thing. It's an ongoing process always because life is consistently changing and you have to roll with that. Finding the balance for your child, I think, means you find the balance for yourself first. You can't be an anchor or the North Star for them if you aren't paying attention to your own physical health, mental health, spiritual health, all those things. Your dad and I, when we had children, we said we want to have children that we enjoy and other people enjoy as well. So that when we were out as a family, we weren't disruptive. We weren't didn't have people, yelling, screaming, whatever. It was important to us to have a good, stable family life and also to make sure that you guys had other people in your lives besides us. You needed other adults in your lives that could speak to your life. Sometimes that was neighbors. Sometimes that was friends' moms. That was your instructors. You each had a favorite teacher at some point who really was important to you. All those pieces go together. It's really, really hard. When you were hurt or you were upset, you're right, it does hit harder, and especially with the firstborn. You were the first of everything always. You were the first to go to school, the first to try this career, the first to drive, everything. You're our beta. So, yeah, it's hard. It really is hard. Just because it gets hard doesn't mean you're doing it wrong. Sometimes things are just difficult and you have to work your way through them. It is an extraordinary career. I was talking to some friends after you had graduated college, and I think it was your second job. I don't think it was Tucson. I think it was Missouri. And we were out to dinner, and the husband turned to the wife and said, "You know that their daughter is a professional ballerina. Isn't that the coolest job ever?" And I was like, yeah, it is really cool. But then I thought back to all the years and the blisters and the broken ankles and the toenails that fell off and the pain and the
stinky car rides.
Yeah, oh my gosh, the smell of backstage with everybody's pointe shoes. It's a lot all in one big basket. But it was a beautiful experience. I still have moms from backstage that I keep in touch with on social media because it's like you're in the trenches together. You got to get this production out. And we were all learning how to be backstage moms at the same time. We were learning how to do props and sew costumes and do the quick change.
Yes. And I remember that I would only let you do my quick change or Mrs. Tull. So if you were watching the show that night, I guess I was a bit of a diva about that, but I was like, in that stressful moment, you were the ones, you just hold out the costume, I just rip it off, always kept me very calm. And I was like, okay, I got to make sure I have one of these moms backstage. Right.
And Mrs. Tull was one of the moms that I did go to for advice. She was always very steady presence and just a great person. Yeah, she was. Mm-hmm. And beautiful daughters. Mm-hmm. There are those people. If you're accepting the fact that you don't know everything, then you can ask questions and learn. If you go into the situation as a parent thinking, I got this, I know everything there is to know about this, you're going to miss something because you can't know everything. This is a very unusual world. And it's such a small world. The people that you have had on your podcast that you knew from all different stages of your career because you keep crossing paths. It's fascinating, really.
I know. So often I will interview someone and then we're talking and we know someone else from some other, it's like there's always a few degrees of separation between almost everyone.
Right.
Everyone's worked with everyone. It's a very insular world. And I was just saying to another teacher at the school the other day about how important I think it is for my kids and kids in general to have other authority figures in their life who they can learn from and hear from, because you need to be able to have other adults in your life, I think, who can give you advice and give you wisdom and be able to, like, as a parent, I need that. I think that's so important. I can't be the only one who teaches my kid everything. I see how much Ollie's learned at kindergarten this year. He has an amazing kindergarten teacher, and he comes home and teaches me things that I never knew about, academic or emotional. He's teaching me all these really amazing things. And I'm like, I'm so glad you have these people in your life who are there. So I think that's such good advice. Just make sure that you are finding the people that can be a steady presence in your kid's life and then trusting them. Because I feel like there was a point where I saw my dance teachers more than I saw you.
Oh my gosh. During the pandemic, I was cleaning out files, and I don't know if you remember, we had that giant calendar that was on the back door. It was a metal door, so I had this giant calendar on the back.
Yep.
And every child had a different color of ink to map their activity. So it was, analog, paper calendar, different colors of ink. And you would be at school from 7:30 to 2:30, and then at dance from 4:30 to 9:30. And then you would come home and do homework till midnight, sleep 5 hours, 6 hours, get up, do it again. It was amazing. Dancers are incredible, their level of stamina and time management. I mean, any employer out there who wants to know if they can hire somebody who's reliable, and it's incredible.
I always say that. I think like dancers have a whole different idea of what it means to be a good employee.
Yes.
Our level of where we're at with that is just, we'll do it in anything. It doesn't matter if it's a dance career or my waitressing job. I'm going to bring that same level.
Oh, yes. One waitressing job, you had a huge menu to memorize, and you were like, yep, I got this, no big deal.
I had to make flashcards.
I couldn't believe it, but it makes sense. If you have to memorize choreography every day, you do that every day for 3 hours, those skills are transferable. That was amazing.
Let's pause this episode and take a moment to talk about something that can feel incredibly complicated for aspiring dancers and artists: navigating the U.S. visa process. Whether you need an O1, P1, or P3 visa, having the right guidance is crucial. That's where Ballet comes in. They specialize in immigration law and helping performers like you navigate the visa process with ease. Ballet understands the unique challenges and aspirations of ballet dancers seeking to pursue their dreams in a new country. Their dedicated team of immigration experts is passionate about providing tailored legal solutions to help talented dancers seamlessly transition to their chosen destination. With their expertise, you can rest easy knowing that you're getting the proper guidance you need to make your dreams a reality. I only recommend brands I know and love here on the podcast, and Ballet is no exception. I have personally worked with Ballet to secure a registered trademark for the Brainy Ballerina. I had no idea what I was doing or even where to start, but they made the entire process smooth and completely stress-free. Don't let visa confusion hold you back from your dance dreams. Head to the show notes or visit brandley.com. That's BRANDLLET.com to learn more about how they can help you secure the opportunities you deserve. Is there anything that you think matters way less than parents think in those formative years? Like, what do you think parents need to kind of let go of? And then what are some things that you think are the most important for parents to maybe focus on?
What's least important but seems most urgent is some of the drama that goes on in your early training when you're at a studio. If you are able to separate yourself from that and help your dancer keep their perspective in that, it'll help everything. It'll help your relationship. It'll help their relationship with their instructors. It'll help their dancing. Because like you just said, you were in that environment more hours a week than you were with me. You were home, but you were sleeping. I didn't see you. So if you can keep the perspective of, it's important and my child loves this, but it's just ballet. It's not the tragedy or the ecstasy that I think it is. So I think other people's opinions of you as a parent or them as a dancer, really not so important. It's harder now because of social media, and there's more opportunities every day for hours to compare yourself to people, but that's an important thing. The things that are out of your control, I read somewhere that you can make a list of every single thing that's stressing you out and then cross out all the ones that you have no control over. The list that is left, take one action on each of those things.
That's good.
As a parent, I honestly feel like as long as your child is safe in their studio and in their situation, your opinion about how things are run is really not pertinent. You know your child best. Your child's instructor knows the dance world the best. Put your energy where it needs to be for your child.
I had a parent at MCB who told me that one of her personal rules was if she ever had something that she maybe not complain about is the right way to say it, but that she had a suggestion for or something that she didn't like how it was running, she said, I always have to have a solution. So I'm never going to come to you with a problem unless I have a solution that I think could work and that I'm willing to help you with, which I loved. There's things that maybe you just can't see, because I do agree with that. And also as a dance teacher, I know that you're doing so many things, sometimes you miss things. So that kind of communication style was great because she would say, hey, I think maybe this isn't working as well as it could. Could we try this? Here's what I can do. And then that made me, first of all, really open to criticism because I was like, okay, here is a solution, not just like someone complained to me about whatever it was that day.
Right.
And then the willingness to help and recognizing that dance teachers and studio directors are doing so many things and saying like, I don't want to put more on your plate, but can I help you? And here's exactly how. So it's not like an ambiguous offer.
Right.
That was really great. I always think about that, and I try to do that in my life too now. That was a really good lesson. And I feel like you also did that. Maybe you didn't say those words to me, but I feel like I saw that in you as well.
That's an extraordinary lesson. I appreciate that Mom taught you. I'm going to carry that with me too. I'm thinking more of the years that you were in pre-professional, because once you got to college, I wasn't really involved so much in those decisions.
Yes.
We were there for you if you were injured, maybe, or if you needed us, we were available to you. But
yeah, if you're dancers in college, don't call their director.
Yeah, please don't. I remember there being 1,000 ways to help at your child's studio, especially backstage. So if you can't be there, if you work 40, 50 hours a week, your physical presence is going to be a challenge. But you can offer to provide food. There's 1,000 things you can do. I love that idea of make a short list of things that you are good at that you could offer as a service to your child's studio if you want to be involved. One year, I only did the studio that you were at. They began a competition team, and they needed someone to coordinate communications for that. So I did the email list, and I wrote out the emails, and I said, this is where we're going to be this weekend, and this is when you need to be there. And yes, you really do need to be there 2 hours ahead of time, even though it doesn't seem like you should. And that was something I could do from my house that was helpful. So there's always a way to be helpful. And now there's even more ways because there's social media accounts to run, and you could be in charge of that.
Yeah.
So the most important thing, I guess, is really to listen to your child, be there for them, understand that they need a wide experience of things, and all that they have will bring more to their dancing, and really enjoy their performances when they're on stage. They know you're there. They really do, and they feel that. So just enjoy it. You'll miss it when it's done, that's for sure.
Yeah. One thing that I think that we got better at over the years was, I guess, listening to each other. I feel like I remember conversations when I was younger where we both just were like not feeling like the other person was hearing what we were saying, and we got frustrated. And I feel like as I got older, we got a lot better at actually like listening and acknowledging and then giving the perspective. And that just helped, I think, our communication so much.
Sure.
If you're in this world, and like you said, you're making decisions really young, you're having to make decisions for your very young child who's trying to become an adult all of a sudden, and you're like, but you're still my baby, like you were just born, how is this possible? And I think for dancers to remember that, like for your parents, this time has gone by in a flash. So you feel like you're in this place where you're ready to go away, and maybe you are, but your parents are they still see you as this like little 3-year-old sometimes, where they're like, I remember you running around the house in your tutu, and now you're doing this, and it's hard for them. So remember that perspective, I think, is always helpful to like give your parents a little bit of grace to realize they're kind of going through it.
Yeah, I think that description you said when we were having trouble listening to each other, I had a realization that time when you're trying to help your child decide about their career choice is developmentally an area where they are trying to break away from you. Like it's a very normal process that happens with teenagers. The communication sort of falters. So that's another layer that you have to remember. All parents of teenagers are going through something like this. You've just added a whole nother career choice on top of it.
Yeah.
So be patient. Everybody be patient with each other as much as you can. And yes, I love that idea that we did get better at listening to each other. We got better at listening to what was being said and what wasn't being said. There was some realization and revelation in that too.
Yeah. Yeah, you're very good at asking the right questions of like, you always ask me, what are you really worried about here? That's one thing you always ask me, because I think I'll call you sometimes with a lot of concerns, and you're like, what is the real deep fear or concern? And that usually unlocks something that I didn't even realize at the surface.
You're trying to distract yourself from what it is you're afraid of with a whole lot of other discussions of things. And art is tricky. Dance is tricky. I mean, it is. It's a whole world of people expressing themselves through movement, and that sometimes means you don't express yourself that great with words.
Oh,
You've gotten used to using your body and maybe not spending as much time understanding yourself with words, or you're helping your parent understand yourself or helping your child.
yeah.
When you were in all these discussions and all these situations, did you have a sense of what else was happening around in the family?
No, and that's another thing that I meant to say is that I feel like I was very egocentric, which I think, again, is a normal thing for a child or a teenager. You're just in your own little bubble. There was a few things that happened that helped me a lot. I remember when I was in college, my communication was trash, and I would only call you when I was having a bad day. And finally, you said to me, you can't just call me only when you're having a bad day, because now I just think you're having a terrible experience and you're upset all the time, because that is the only picture I have of you at school. And the majority of my experience was great, but I was only calling you when I was upset. And then you were like, when you call me, can you please say, is this a good time to talk? Because I would just call you and immediately launch into my speech about what was ever bothering me, and you were doing 10 other things at the time. It wasn't a good time for you. And also, if you call me when you're upset, then can you please call me later and tell me the resolution and close the loop? Because I'm just here worried. I'm sitting here worrying and worrying and worrying about this problem that you called me about. Well, you've moved on and it's still sitting with you. So I thought that was really good advice. That was probably, and I feel terrible saying this because I was in college, so I was 18, 19 years old, but I feel like that was the first time that I thought of you, my mom, as a person with a life outside of being my mom.
That makes sense.
And it was like, oh, she has other things she's doing. She has other stuff that's going on in her life. Like, she's worrying about me when I'm not calling her. Like, it just didn't really occur to me before then. So that was really helpful. And then I feel like the other part of it was just having my own kids, because that emotional part of it, I think, really helped when you talked to me through that. And then once you have kids, then the logistical part became so much more clear. Because I remember asking you questions more recently, like, how did you pick me up from ballet at 9 p.m. when you had a infant? Like, how did you do bedtime? Like, all these things that I never even considered or even worried about at the time.
Right.
It's now amazing to me that you got me to all my classes. Dad traveled a ton for work. Like, you were often solo parenting 4 children. And he was out of the country, like at least a week out of every month.
Right.
So now looking at that and just seeing, I always knew how much you did for me, but I don't think I realized how much of your own personal time and sanity you sacrificed to get me to ballet and to get me to this place. And to answer your question, I did not have a sense of like, this whole family is trying to operate and my siblings all have activities they're trying to do, and my parents maybe want to go on a date every once in a while and see each other and have a conversation. I just was focused on myself. And I don't know that that's abnormal, but I think for parents, maybe you have to actually say it to them. I'm a human being who has thoughts and feelings too, you know, and could you please ask me how my day is sometimes?
Right.
Because for some reason, it's just not intuitive to a kid.
Egocentricity is absolutely a normal developmental thing happening. And that goes back to what we were saying before about having your own tribe, your own people, your own crew. I could call a neighbor and say, can you come sit for 20 minutes while I go pick up Caitlin? My next door neighbor would come and just, everybody'd also be asleep, but she could just be there in case there was some problem. You have to build your network as much as possible. And because you mentioned before that I wasn't a dance mom that was pushing you beyond your comfort level as far as what I was in charge of, I don't think that that's my personality, but other parents have different personalities. So that might be something they have to work through or work with. A lot of people will use control of a situation to relieve their anxiety. If I can control this person, if I can control this situation, if I can control this teacher, then I won't feel so anxious about the unknowns that are coming up. So if that's something that you struggle with as a parent and you're feeling like it's not helpful, it's not being useful in your world, then maybe it's just something you have to work on.
Yeah, and I think as a dancer, well, I think as a human, we don't want to be in the messy middle. We want resolution to things. And as a dancer, most of your career exists in the messy middle. You have 95% rehearsal, figuring things out, dress rehearsal, things go terrible, costumes are falling off, people forget their steps, and then you have a show and it all comes together. And that's the resolution, but that's such a small part of it. So you have to get comfortable living in that uncertain space.
Yes, it's very ambiguous. And isn't it amazing the amount of hours and hours and hours that you devote as a dancer for that performative experience that lasts 2 hours, 2.5 hours.
Yeah. Yeah.
You might be on stage 30 minutes of that. It's mind-boggling, really. It's an amazing world to be a part of.
Yeah.
Any artistic endeavor to me. But ballet is a sport and an art at the same time. And what dancers can achieve with strength and flexibility and musicality, to me, it's just beyond understanding. I just love it so much.
This question came from Instagram, Mom. How long did you keep all of my old pointe shoes and costumes? From a dance mom. Wants to know.
The pointe shoes, once they were dead, they had to go because you wore those suckers out.
Yeah.
I don't keep any pointe shoes. Although when I was a little girl in second grade, there was a rummage sale on my street and somebody had a pair of pointe shoes and I bought them and hung them on my bed. My mom thought I was nuts. They weren't used, but anyway, that's another story.
I saw the pointe shoes that Julie Kent signed
Julie Kent
when I was
shoes.
in
Yeah.
Le Corsair. Yeah, I mean, I'll never get rid of those. They were my shoes.
Oh, she signed your shoes. Oh, that's
Yeah.
awesome, because we had, for your graduation, we had a pair, your pointe shoes in a shadow box. So that's probably one.
So we have a few, but not the hundreds of pairs I've worn.
But the costuming, there's still costumes, I think, in my guest room. I know there's some for your sister, and there might be one or two. I think I tried to give you most of yours when you got married and got your
I would say Steve always jokes that every time you come visit, something shows up in one of our closets. You just bring another box of stuff. So yeah, as soon as I had space, you started bringing my costumes to me, but you saved them.
Decades we kept the costumes.
Okay, Mom, last question, and you know it's coming. If you could give dance parents whose children are pursuing their professional dance career one piece of advice, what would you tell them?
Enjoy the joy of your dancer while they are in this process. And educate yourself on the dance world so that you can be a guide for them with information and not fear, and offer to help people in ways that don't completely deplete you, because you do need to be there for your dancer.
Great advice, Mom. You always have the best advice. Thank you for doing this. I really appreciate this. And this was a really fun and interesting conversation. Like, I feel like a lot of these things we've never really talked about.
I enjoyed it. I enjoyed thinking about getting ready for this discussion, and I enjoyed having it. And I just am so proud of you. I'm so proud of what you're achieving in the dance world, that you're expanding your influence in a way that is so necessary. And I hope people really understand that they can take advantage of it. It's hard won, those experiences are hard earned. So
True. You're making me cry, Mom.
Well, I love you. I love you. I'm so proud of you.
I love you, Mom. Thank you for this.
Thank you.
Thank you for tuning in to the Brainy Ballerina Podcast. If you found this episode insightful, entertaining, or maybe a bit of both, I would so appreciate you taking a moment to leave a rating and hit subscribe. By subscribing, you'll never miss an episode, and you'll join our community of dancers passionate about building a smart and sustainable career in the dance industry. Plus, your ratings help others discover the show too. I'll be back with a new episode next week. In the meantime, be sure to follow along on Instagram at The Brainy Ballerina for your daily dose of dance career guidance.